Hi everyone. Today we're talking about modules. A module in Python is simply just a Python file. That is any file that ends in a .py file extension, your computer system will recognize as a Python file. As of Python 3.10.4, there are 308 built-in modules. Maybe. It depends on where you get your distribution of Python. Certain distributions leave out some of the built-in stuff in order to save space. We're going to show you how to access them in just a couple slides, but for now, let's talk about why. There are two main reasons why we would want to use a Python module. First, you can use code that somebody else has written. There are problems that people have already solved for you, so you can use code that addresses whatever issue you're facing in your own project without having to write it from scratch. In the example that we're going to look at today, let's say that we need to get a random integer. Now, you could write all of that code, write your own function from scratch, or you can simply import a module that somebody else has written and then use their function in order to get a random number. The second reason is when your project is getting too big. If you have hundreds or thousands of lines of code in a single Python file, it can get really difficult to manage. You can split them up into separate modules where each one is organized according to whatever makes sense in the context of your project, and then you can import the different components. This is how you do it. You use the built-in import statement. And what this does is it creates a module object in memory, and you can then use all of the functions or objects and variables from different modules in your current file. So you would do this by saying import followed by the module name. And then whenever you want to access the things, you use the module name followed by a dot, and then whatever object you want to use. This is still pretty abstract, so let's look at a more concrete example. Here's the random module. This is built into Python, so you use import random. And then this is a throwback. We've seen this at the very beginning of the Newbie bytes. Dir is short for directory, and this will list out all of the possible objects that you can use inside of the random module. So when I do this, I get a list. And just like we did before, we're going to go ahead and ignore all of the things up here at the top that start with an underscore or a double underscore. And we're going to focus just on the bottom. So here we have things like choice, rand int, rand range. We have all of these different objects that we can choose from. For today's focus, we're going to look at rand int. And even if you have no clue how to use this, let's think about the things that we've already learned. We're looking at the random module, and int should sound familiar. So my guess is that this object has something to do with creating random integers. So if I scroll back up here, I'm going to change dir to help. And again, we saw this at the beginning of the newbies as well. And we're going to do random dot rand int. And when I run this, I get some documentation. This returns a random integer in the range A to B, including both endpoints. Okay, so rand int takes two parameters. Essentially, you put the lowest number first, the highest number second, and then it will give you a random integer in between those two numbers. Let's take a look. Here I have a little snippet of example code. I import random. I assign the label number, the return value of random.randint, and I start with 1 to 10. And so now every time I run this code, you can see it gives me a different random integer. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to change this range. We'll say 50 to 100. And if I run that, now all of my random integers should be between 50 and 100, including those two endpoints. So it is possible to get the number 50, and it is possible to get the number 100. Hopefully this was enough to get you started on today's bite. Good luck.